Well, I actually did scratch this off my notes, but I'm going to tell it to you because we're vibing and I'm just feeling extremely confident and comfortable right now.
Yeah, good. What you
So
got? Wait, am I answering this correctly? What am I supposed to say?
early on, I was telling people, or telling maybe my mom, who was my listener,
If I'm like shitty to people and I'm an asshole and I'm like hateful and weird, then like I'm not into art that comes from that kind of a place.
I'm like getting caught in mouth because I've never talked about this.
Wow. What a lovely, well-researched question.
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't.
Hey,
Hey, Andrew, can you hear me just fine?
I can, yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I poked around a little bit and checked some stuff out. It's fun. It's like it's fun. It's
We definitely don't do things extremely traditional around here, that's for sure.
appreciate that. Yeah, yeah.
I like the background. What is that, by the way?
Thank you. This is a painting by my friend Amanda of a tennis court, basketball court combo near me, and it's just my favorite thing. I love it so much.
It's so beautiful. So shout out to Amanda. I love it.
Amanda Acker, a dot 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 on Instagram.
I love it. What's the word I think people say like shameless plug?
Right, it is. I have zero shame in promoting Amanda. I think she's a genius, and I can't believe she lives in the woods in northern Michigan. So, yeah,
I
big
love
love.
it. Well, is Carly the pup in the studio with us today?
Yes, she is. My bedroom is behind this wall here, and she's in bed right now. I think it's like 3 degrees out here, and on a day this cold, she pretty much keeps cozy.
She's like staying off the camera for today. She's like, let me sleep.
Yeah, she might make an appearance. She might come over and because we're getting to we're approaching feeding time for her afternoon meal, so she might say hello.
Amazing. Do you have
Yep.
any other pets other than Carly?
That's it. That's all I got. Just me and my girl.
I was like kind of curious just because I had, was scrolling through your Instagram and I saw pictures of a horse, some cats, some baby ducks.
Yeah, I guess I have a life that sort of revolves around animals. Or I'd like it to be more so, but yeah, there's always something around generally.
How old is Carly?
It's a little nebulous. I think like 11 or 12. Old enough that she's got some arthritis, but still when she wants to play, she can kind of move around pretty good. So we're nearing the end of the road, but hopefully not that near at this point.
Well, I don't think so either, just because given the looks of it on Instagram with some of the photos, I don't know how old they are. I didn't check the year on them or anything, but she still looks very youthful, very playful. So
She does, but she falls sometimes and she has a hard time getting up. And she's at that weird kind of like pre-old dog age where she's kind of learning that she can't like move like she used to. Or maybe she's not learning it and I'm learning it. I don't know. Somebody's learning something
we definitely got to move on because I'm going to get super depressed about it. I just love dogs so much.
too. It's hard. It is a hard thing to go through is the end stages. Where are you based?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, cool. All right, sweet.
Originally from the West Coast, but now in Austin.
Okay. Somebody on my Instagram feed posted or story posted something about it snowed. It was 26 degrees and snowing. Where I don't know where in Texas that was, but Texas gets snow.
Apparently now it does. Yeah, it was snowing. I took both my standard poodles for a walk in the snow this morning. It was awesome.
Oh, what are their names?
Pia and Poppy.
Cute. Oh, that's so sweet. So it's snowing right there. You had snow.
Yeah, it was snowing all
Yeah.
morning and then it took a little bit of a break and it did start to snow again about an hour or two ago and now it's done. But yeah,
What a world. What a world we live in. Crazy.
I'm pulling up a quick picture real quick to show you before we officially start
Oh, awesome.
of my poodles and the snow that they were enjoying in the walk.
Wow. Oh, they are very cute. And also like that's serious snow. It's like full ground cover. That's not just a couple flakes.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I loved it, but I'm definitely super excited to be chatting with you today. I know I could probably talk about our pups literally the entire episode. Super excited to have you on. And I want to start off by telling you what I journaled about you real quick. That'll
Mm,
jump right into our first question. Are you ready?
ready.
Retired teacher, if I'm not mistaken, and valedictorian. Did you by any chance give a speech at your graduation in school?
I did, yeah.
Okay, good, because that's going to help me out with my first question of the day.
Great. Okay.
So I journaled, I wonder if he did or not. But my first question is there anything from that speech that you can recollect that you carry with you today?
That is a fabulous question. This is actually something I think about a lot in terms of like what was a lesson from this band or this era or this moment or like the scene, like my friend and I talk about like the scene that we kind of came out of, like what's part of that scene ethos that we want to bring with us into our lives as adults. And my speech, I mostly remember that it was a bit like a little pretentious probably. And I remember using the framing device of like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So like we all are going to add to our lives as we subtract, as we divide. And it was like pretty dumb, honestly. So I guess my main takeaway is that like you can't, this isn't a piece of advice from the speech that I have carried, but it is like a reminder to myself to like your tastes change, the things you think are cool and meaningful change. So try not to like hate that past version of yourself, even though you're like, I was an idiot. But like you're going to just constantly hate yourself if that's how you move through life and you don't want to do that. So like improve and grow and learn and change, but don't get too embarrassed about don't like if you did something bad or evil, maybe that's something you should hold on to and learn from. But like if you just do something kind of stupid and corny, give your past self a little hug. That's okay.
I can't believe we're starting off the episode like that. Like that was so poetically beautiful. The mathematics of life. I love that so much.
Something only a senior in high school could like dream up is in terms of like this is really good. This is good.
You're like hitting the jackpot with that, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about your latest jackpot that I think you hit with your latest project. But you've had what some would say a pretty successful musical career. And though I'm sure you've learned so much along the way, is there anything your previous projects didn't prepare you for Metal Bubble Trio that you're figuring out today?
Yeah. Well, the last time I released an album was with Fun in 2012, which was 12 years ago, with a label support, my best friends, and kind of a groundswell of like goodwill and a fan base from the first album and our previous projects. And I don't have any of that this time around. And now like the music landscape has changed. I'm not like grinding it out on the road. Social media is here. That was like less of a thing then. It's just a completely different world. And so I guess something that I don't want to say like nothing I learned is helpful anymore, because that's certainly not true. But like it is a weird, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to like, how to promote, how to make, it's just a different, making music in one's 40s is very different than making music in one's early 20s and mid 20s. And, community is different, fan base is different, the culture was totally different. So it's almost like starting from scratch in a way. So yeah, like the things that I'm learning now are more like, how do I even make a video? Like, I guess I got to call my friend with a camera and hope that like buying pizzas is enough for, I don't know, like I don't have a record label giving us like, I don't, God knows how much money to make a fancy video. Like it's just me and my friends. So it's all very different. And I'm constantly learning slash like not learning because I don't know what's going on. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like I'm gonna make this and share it, but I don't know if anybody's gonna pay attention or if it means anything, but I can't stop creating. I guess that's the main thing I've learned is that I cannot stop creating. I cannot stop making and sharing, even though it seems like the world is different and scary and unfeeling towards my art. I still have to do it.
Well, I definitely couldn't have said it better because I think that's the biggest misconception people have. One of so many, but I think one of the biggest ones is that once you reach a level of success, you're able to pretty much go AWOL or go missing for however many years you want. And then your comeback's just going to be there because all your resources are still there. But what people don't realize, even I'm sure for you, what you were doing for press 12 years ago is nowhere near what you're doing today. I mean, now you're able to kind of do a lot of appearances on platforms like today you're doing mine. It's a show on Spotify, but before you would actually have to travel and do an actual press tour. So a lot of people think like, oh, well, he was successful. This is going to be an easy walk in the park. But the reality of it is that it's completely a different ballgame.
It really is, yeah. And the band was successful, but it's not like people were like, "Oh, I wonder what that keyboard player has to say." Like he wrote a lot of that stuff too, and probably had a lot of the production ideas. And I don't want to say nobody cares because like I do have like some fans and friends that have like been along for the ride, which is amazing, and I'm grateful for all that. But it's not like people are like swarming this release and like crazy about what Metal Bubble Trio, like when's that Metal Bubble Trio album going to drop. It's even for somebody like Jack from Fun who dove immediately into Bleachers even when Fun was still rolling and never really went away. he still started with bleachers from the ground up. He built his following over time and has done it slowly and correctly, I think. And I'm, in awe of that. But it's not like he just happened overnight either. Like he put the time in. So that's, I guess what I'm trying to do is have that slow burn and grow little by little, share little by little.
Are you enjoying that transition? Because that's definitely something I can relate to. I talked about this early on the show before. I always joke with people before anyone gave a fuck about what I had to say. Early on, I was telling people, or telling maybe my mom, who was my listener, but telling
Yeah,
her how, the transition behind being a choreographer and being behind the scenes, not having to be the face of my own product, moving to this transition where now I depend on my face, my voice being the immediate outreach to people. How are you
mm,
dealing with that transition? Because I know for me it was crazy, but I'm also kind of like grateful I'm doing it now in my mid 30s because I don't know that I would have been able to execute it as well in my early 20s, being the front man, I guess you could say. But
sure.
also, the older I get, I know this is weird and I've talked about this too, but I feel sexier. I feel confident talking into a camera. How are you dealing with that transition?
That is such a good question, and that's so interesting that we kind of have that in common. Because, like, yeah, if your work stands as what it is, your training, you work so hard to become a choreographer, and you get good at it, and then you pivot to now, like, yeah, you're the front man or whatever. I haven't trained to be on stage, being like, all right, how's everybody doing? Like that wasn't my role in Fun, and in my band before that. So I think for me, similarly, I think to what you said, or maybe I'm misinterpreting, but like I think if I were to have been tasked with being the kind of face of a project in my late teens, early 20s, when I was more supporting other front people, I probably would have been a lot less prepared for it. I think I would have said a lot of things and done a lot of things that I would have been like, man, I wish I could take that one back. Not like I was like racist or homophobic, not like I was like doing anything crazy, but I think I would have made a lot of dumber decisions and worn a lot dumber clothes and had a lot more like embarrassing pictures to look back on. And now I feel a little bit more like I know who I am. I know what I want to say. I kind of generally know what kind of energy I want to put out into the world. And I think at the time it was maybe more of an amalgamation of like, oh, like I really like Sum 41 and they're crazy. So I'm going to try to be crazy a little bit. Or, like I think now I've like mellowed into I think I know myself a little bit, and that might change from month to month still, but like I do, yeah, I guess I feel a little more sure of myself and know who I am a bit more.
Well, what I got from that was almost kind of this centered balance as an artist that you are, because it's funny. I journaled about this, which we'll talk a little bit about later on, but there's a track specifically on this new project of yours that I was like, whoa, like talk about true balance. But I'm going to stop talking about that right now because we'll get to that one later. But for sure, before we even talk about the project, first of all, congrats because it's amazing and it just came out January 17th. Is that correct?
Did, yeah, just 5 days ago. Yeah.
How are you dealing with post-release? Are you feeling like there's a part of you that's finally able to kind of kick back some, or is the creative Andrew still like shooting for, what's coming next?
Yeah, always next for sure. I kind of expected there to be a feeling of satisfaction and like a kind of deep breath or something. And it was actually some like a little bit of like a weird letdown in a way to release an album and be like, oh, it's that's it. It's done. It's out. And like I had the band over last night to, rehearse, and we're still filming videos and doing stuff. And they were kind of asking the same thing. And I was kind of like, I don't know. Like it doesn't feel like I don't know what I expected. I didn't think like I would suddenly like be happy and my skin would clear up and I would, what like, I don't know. I didn't think like I was going to like come out of a cocoon like a butterfly or something. But like, it's another day. It's like your birthday comes and goes and you're kind of like, well, no, I guess I'm a year older. Here we go. Like whatever. The restless, I think, artist in me is like, good, like take that kind of malaise and work with it and make something. Now get excited about what's next. Like you don't get excited about something until you can kind of see it and understand what's coming and what you have to do. So LP2 is in the works. My friend Tommy, who designed this album cover, we've already designed the second one. So like I know the title and I know the cover. So that helps to have some visual parameters on it. Even if that changes, it's still like kind of the target to hit at this point. I don't know. Like how do you feel like when you release like an episode or any kind of a creative endeavor? Like do you feel more like you've done it? It's done, like it's done, or like is it just an immediate like lily pad moment?
I am literally smiling so hard and thank you for asking because I was just having this conversation. The level of enthusiasm per episode is is just slightly different now because I'm now working on bigger projects. I'm doing more than I ever even imagined podcasting would ever take me
Mm.
to. But I do remember the days where I'm like, I committed to 7 o'clock in the morning every Monday to drop an episode. And I remember early on being up at like 6 o'clock, getting ready, waiting for that episode to drop, posting on social media. But something you said that really made me smile was kind of like that, not lack of enthusiasm, but now I'm literally like, listen, bitch, I'm sleeping until 8 o'clock in the morning. It's scheduled a week before. I am not waking up in the morning for it to air. The excitement's still there, but it's there for different reasons because I'm getting better at promoting. I'm getting better at networking. So the excitement comes in different levels, I guess you can say. But, to tie in what you were saying was there is this feeling now of an episode airs and the excitement's not there like it used to be when I was so new at this, but the excitement comes from I want to see how many people write me about, whoa, I can't believe you just had this person on. I'm going to go check out their music. Or, wow, I really like this song that you talked about on the episode. So I look forward to different things, but episodes airing at 7 a.m. in the morning, bitch, I'm asleep.
I love that. Yeah, somebody asked if I was going to stay up until midnight to like see it go live or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. Like I go to bed at like 10. Like probably not. Like I'll check in the morning, like I'll make sure it all came out okay and everything, but like I'm asleep. I don't know.
Well, I guess we're definitely on the same page with that. And I think that also comes with a level of security of I've learned that not everything's always going to go the way I envisioned it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
So I'm able to kind of just relax a little bit and let the universe kind of do its thing too. And then whenever there's time to troubleshoot, if Andrew would have woke up the next morning and something in one of the platforms didn't release on time, you can troubleshoot it. You know who to contact, So it's a little bit different. And I totally relate to that. So I was like smiling ear to ear hearing you talk about that.
That is very funny. Yeah, that's a good point too. Like I think I tended to maybe get more anxious in all areas of life, I think, as a younger person, but now I'm like, okay, like if my car breaks down, I call AAA, like I know how to deal with it. I can figure it out. Whereas I think before it was like, what? But what happens though? Like if you blow a tire, what do you do? But now I know. And it's happened a few
100%.
times and I just deal with it every time.
Exactly. Well, I mean, now that we're kind of talking, we're talking about this new project real quick. I do want to say that you've worked with some amazing collaborators on this project, but there was one that I journaled about that completely caught me off guard, which was that balance that we're getting ready to talk about. And that was your collaboration with The Mind. How did that connection go about? And let's start there.
Baby, what you holding on to? It's not me, it's you.
That one, I had built the instrumental. I was really excited about it. Like I thought it was a neat. I just like, sometimes you make music and you're kind of like, okay, whatever. And that one I was like, this is cool. It's interesting. It has some good like textures and flavors, and it has a beat that I like, and which is and something that is very foreign to me. Like I always have melodies. I always hear melodies. I know what the melody is going to be before the words or before anything. And with that one, I had no real melody. And the instrumental, there's melody to the instrumental, but there's no like kind of lead vocal melody that would kind of shape the whole song. So I sent it to my bandmate Matt from my first band on Othello, and or not my first real band, and he is a brilliant lyricist and melody writer, and I kind of thought like I'll bet Matt can help me finish this song. And Matt actually is doing some like production and co-writing and stuff. He does many things. He's a multi-dimensional artist in Chicago. And he said, actually, I'm working with this guy Zig right now. I'm going to give it to him and see what he can do with it because he is a great writer. He's like on a creative hot streak. We're making stuff right now. So I'm going to see what he can do with it. And so Zig, the mind, took it for a few days, came back to Matt with this like lyrical structure, melodic structure, all these different multi-layered vocal things. And they tracked it together and sent me I think almost exactly what you kind of hear on the finished one is like all his vocals. And then I, sang with him on some parts and whatever, but like more or less, he just kind of wrote that and around my instrumental bed. And so I have, Matt ultimately to thank for putting us in touch, but then like the mind Zig is just like brilliant, brilliant, and kind of an outside the box creative thinker, in my opinion, in terms of like the way he looks at melody and structure. Because the song it's a weird structure, but he took that weird structure and made it into kind of one of the more like easy to follow structures of the album. Like it just like you want to go on that journey with him and you want to feel what he's feeling. And I just couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. I'm just very grateful that that worked out the way it did.
Well, I have to tell you, and it's definitely not just to stroke your ego because I have you on the call, okay? It's truly genuine feedback because talking about balance a few minutes ago, this is where I was going with that because I totally loved the contrast in that song because I journaled, there's a calm to it, yet somehow it hyped me up. And
Mm.
I had a really hard time like, what else do I journal about it? And I had to just leave it at that. And then I finally realized when we got on the call, we started talking and I'm like, balance. That's the word I was looking for because it almost put me in the middle. Sonically, you wouldn't necessarily think that, someone with an edgy rap, type of urban touch would be on this track. And somehow it's there and it makes so much sense. And I absolutely love that about that song. So that one stood out to me. And I'm like, the
Thanks.
balance of it, phenomenal. Great work on that one for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that there was a funny this that just reminded me of something. Speaking of balance, there's like a down section in it that is very almost like a pure bossa nova in a way. Like I was very kind of inspired by bossa nova throughout the process, but especially for that song. And I thought we're gonna have to cut this middle section. Just that like I hadn't heard his stuff yet. I was just thinking like that is just too much. It's not gonna work. But we'll have these big beats and then like a regular verse and we'll lose that middle section. And he sent it back and I heard that middle section and I was like, that's the best part. That is so cool. Like what he did with that, where he brings his tenderness out. Like, so you, even within his performance, you get this balance of like, I don't know if I would call it ever like a bravado, but there's certainly a vulnerability and like an inner light that like shines through, even though he's talking about like, being jealous of his peers and like being lonely and all this, fucking up just to feel something. And I just think he's great. I think he's a great lyricist. Very, very like he brought a lot of that balance, I would say.
Any chance you'll ever do that song live with him?
I hope so. I hope so. We tried to do a video together for it for release day, but because of the time constraints and he's in Chicago, but he was in Philly at the time, and we just couldn't quite put it together in the time frame. But I'm hoping for a live performance, but B, maybe we'll do like a video, like we'll have him come up here, we'll go down to Chicago and we'll do some kind of a tiny desk type moment where we play it live together and film it or something. Because yeah, I would love. I've never even met him, so which feels crazy at this point because I feel like we have like our artistic souls have met, but we haven't actually physically met.
Well, I actually did scratch this off my notes, but I'm going to tell it to you because we're vibing and I'm just feeling extremely confident and comfortable right now.
Yeah, good. What you
So,
got?
so hopefully this doesn't bite me back in the ass, but I did journal this and I scratched it because I don't always like to be very comparing artist to artist when I hear their music because sometimes I don't want to insult an artist and be like, you sound just like this person, right? But
Sure.
I did journal this and I totally scratched it for my notes because I'm like, I don't want to go there with him. But you mentioned, and I'm blanking out, you mentioned Bossa Nova, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so something I journaled while I was reading about your project and some of the influences on it, I went and did some research on some of these influences that you've had. I had never heard of them before, but I immediately thought, talk about a project that has all these influences, yet it doesn't sound like those influences. And that doesn't happen very often. Usually
Mm.
someone's like, oh, this is a stupid example, but Britney Spears is my idol. That's my inspiration. Then they drop a pop hit that sounds kind of like Slave for You. You know what I mean?
Sure, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Your album did not have that, and I appreciated that so much. So even though it's a compliment, I scratched it because I'm like, in my opinion, they weren't a copy of, and I appreciated that so much about your project. I love that.
Cool. I appreciate that. I mean, that's always the hope is that your influences kind of get assimilated and go through your filter and back out with maybe some threads that you can pick up, but you're not just like, oh, that guy clearly likes this thing and just wanted to do that. And weirdly, I don't mind being compared to stuff, even if it's like, you obviously like this, just because I feel like that's just how we as humans take in the world is like, this is kind of like this. I get, a little bit here, like we kind of need to compare. we need to seek patterns and put them together and put them into manageable bites that we can understand. And I think as an artist, I can hear stuff. I'm like, whoops, I leaned a little too hard on that one there, you know. But that's also part of the fun. It's like, cool. Like I love Stereolab. That you're gonna hear it, you know, it's gonna poke through every once in a while.
Well, thank you so much for taking the positive, because I did mean it in a positive way. And I love that because you're absolutely right. Even just in general, when it comes to any sort of art, we are truly combined efforts of one another. And I do like to celebrate that. And so I do appreciate that you took the positive of it as I saw it.
Great. Glad to hear it. Yeah, yeah.
For sure. I definitely want to talk more about some of the tracks on this project real quick. The
Okay.
first one I have for you is Universal Themes. One of the lyrics on there, it says, you can write a book. Will a book ever be on the horizon for you?
Start to begin and then stop at the end. Just let go of control. It is a universal theme.
Huh. Interesting. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to think about. First of all, a book is a massive undertaking. A former partner was an author, and just seeing the level of devotion and determination that she put into her writing, I was like, it's like making an album, you know, it's like that's a lot. That's a major work. And I don't know that I have the talent for it. I wish, I hope, maybe someday. But I'm trying to put together like a zine for just like I'm going to go to the print shop down the street and, get a zine printed for the Cucumber release party. And even that, I'm like, man, I got to fill 12 pages of nothing. I don't know what to put on them. So I don't know. I hope someday. I really would like to make films and shows and plays. I never want to stop making whatever, because I think part of what leads my kind of muse creatively is not knowing what I'm doing and being curious and trying to like figure something out. And so maybe a book would do that for me. It would spark something where I'm like, I'm a complete beginner. I mean, I read every day, but I don't write. And I think it's a very different. If you journal, do you journal every day?
I do.
That's cool. Like an artist page's intent or a very specific to kind of like get into a similar headspace every day. Like, how do you do it?
So I do two forms. I like to write on paper, and I've never talked about this, but this is kind of a ritual where I do like to disconnect completely, but I like to go down the rabbit hole and listen to my guests' music. And what I do is I journal on scratch pieces of paper. I'm like getting cotton mouth because I've never talked about this, but but I make sure that it is on scratch paper, because something I like to do is I like to write whatever it is that comes to mind. Then I like to kind of read it, sit on it, completely throw it in the trash, go back, listen to the album or the music one more time, and then type on my phone. And that's kind of where I get the spontaneous inspiration to certain lyrics. And with yours, that was one of them. The only thing I heard in that song after hearing it, I think I was on like the second or third time of listening to it, I was like, write a book, write a book, write a book. That kept standing out to me. So I journaled with it, tossed it, went back, listened to it, and then that's kind of where I got the question for it. But yeah, but I do those types of journaling, and it's specifically for the show, but completely off the record, because I am going to scratch the sex part off the episode.
That reminded me too. There's a screenwriter. I want to say it's Taika Waititi, but I don't know if that's accurate. Somebody that writes movies writes a full script, throws it in the trash, writes it again, and is like, if there was anything good in that one, I will remember it and it will make its way into the second draft, which I think is so fascinating. I don't think I could ever do that. I don't think I could completely disregard a first draft. Clean slate, try again.
No, that's so interesting, and I've never heard that before. And I'm definitely going to do some deep dive on, this writer, because that's literally my thought process is if it stood out to me once, there's no reason it will not, stand out to me again. But I want to go back on record now. I'll definitely scratch some of those things I said, but back on record, Andrew, back on record.
Okay. I forgot we were off the record. So
No, you're totally good. That was totally on me. I sometimes forget we're recording.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's fascinating to hear about your process too, just because we work in different mediums, but it sounds like there's some crossover in terms of the way we approach art and creativity. And it's all kind of a holistic process, I think.
No, I definitely couldn't have said that better. Holistic. Is that what you said? Holistic? Holistic.
Yeah, which maybe is not the right word, but I guess I view like creativity being a good person or trying to be a better person anyway, taking care of your body, all this stuff I feel like is part of like a whole to me right now, where I'm like, if I don't like feed myself if I don't read a good book and not just doom scroll or whatever, eat healthy, get my blood pumping, stretch, take my dog for a walk, like how do I expect to make good art if I'm not living a life that, if I'm like shitty to people and I'm an asshole and I'm like hateful and weird, then like I'm not into art that comes from that kind of a place. I would rather like center myself first and then like have the art come from that place, I guess.
Totally, totally. And I think that's so important too, because something I do talk about on the show a lot is intention. Intention behind everything you do will always reflect the outcome of what you're doing. And so I agree with that 100%. The next song I want to talk about from this new project of yours is Cucumber. It's the last track, and that left me wanting more, by the way. Was this the intention of having this as the album title, but also the last closing song on the project?
Yeah, well, the funny thing about Cucumber is that I knew the album would be called Cucumber, and I knew there would be a title track called Cucumber, and I knew that it would be the last song before I knew anything. Like I hadn't started writing the song yet. I had maybe written a couple other songs for the album, but like I was like, now I know this is it. And I know that this like parameter or guidepost or light at the end of the tunnel as my hand is illuminated by the light here. I didn't know how to get there, but I knew those things to be true. And I don't really know how, how do you know anything? You just kind of do. You just have an instinct. And I started writing it. I really wanted it to be there. There's a really gorgeous, sad instrumental song called Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny. And kind of if you don't immediately know it, then you would know it if you heard it. And I wanted it to be kind of a modern, like my version of that. So finally, I kind of had the music written. I had kind of the general melodic shape, and then I knew what I wanted to say with it, basically. Had my friend help out on the lyrics, my friend Chris Hatfield, who has this project Love Axe. He's amazing. He's an old friend, old collaborator, old tour mate, and he knew exactly how to kind of put into words some of the things that I was not not figuring out. But I still didn't know why it's called Cucumber. It still had nothing to do with a cucumber. And then I was with my mom, and she was cutting the skins off cucumbers, and I was like, you don't like that's where all the nutrients are. Like you want that skin. That's the good stuff. And she was like, well, that's just how my mom did it. So I do it. And then I was like, that's it. That is cucumber to me. It's missing your mom who died a long time ago. My mom fortunately is still alive, but hers passed many years ago. Wanting to connect with someone who has left your life, going through this motion that like you're just like, this is how mom did it, and connecting in that way and feeling like that ache and that loss, but maybe a little bit of that like glow of like this part of her lives on, many parts of her live on. And that got me kind of thinking about like an ex where we went to a great restaurant and couldn't remember what it was, but I didn't want to be like, hey, what was that place? Because like that would be weird. I haven't talked to you in 5 years. So stuff like that where like people leave your life or they die or a recipe is gone or what was that joke that grandpa used to tell or whatever, like my high school bandmate passed away when we were around 26, and that kind of loss where I was like, man, I would like we went to Warped Tour together. I would love to just like hang with Steve because I'll bet he'd have a lot of stories to tell by now that I would love to hear. Stuff like that where like these people leave our lives constantly. We are constantly dealing with loss and sadness for no reason. Memories are gone with us, like I was just thinking about like my dog, how like she does this little like whimper when she yawns. Like I'm sure your dogs do too. They'll yawn and it'll be like, oh. And it's so cute. I would love to get it on tape because like it's so cute, but I can never, it's so fast that like you can't get the video going. It just happens. And so that is just a memory that I hold with me that will go when I do. And this is getting very long-winded. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I love it.
To me, that's what Cucumber is about. And then the album as a whole, that kind of unlocked the album as a whole is like, oh man, like it's divorce. I got a divorce. My band broke up. I lost friendships. I lost, you just lose and lose and lose. And then you die. And all of that shit and memory and pain and joy just evaporates. And to me, that's that's kind of what it is.
Well, I think that there's a connection there with that feeling that it conveyed when I listened to it, because I do think that there is a sense of longing and for wanting more of something. And I couldn't get that feeling out of my head when I was listening to this track, which is why I wanted to highlight it. And I was curious about, the connection of it purposely being at the end and it being the title, because again, like I said, that was definitely one of the songs that I'm like, I wanted more of. And hearing you talk about the concept behind the cucumber and, your grandmother who would cut it a specifically way and your mom carried that with her after her mom was gone, it makes so much sense because it definitely conveys this feeling of we sometimes do carry parts of other people or experiences and we don't even realize that intentionally we're applying those things into our life because there's always a part of longing, if that makes sense. I don't even know how to put it into words, but that longing desire of wanting more was definitely there in that song. I got that feeling.
That's awesome to hear because yeah, that's the hope is that like the music conveys something. And even if the words kind of can't put it into words, I do want there to be this a longing, but like not totally like depressing and hollowed out. Like there should be a little like golden glow, a little nostalgia to it. Like looking at an old photograph and feeling something nice too. Like hopefully there's some of that. It's a funny line to walk between like what do I really want to say and what do I hope comes through without me having to say it, I guess.
I can tell you right off the bat, I didn't put this down on my final notes, but it's something I'm seeing very clearly right now. When I was listening to it the first time, it made me think of, I never watched it personally, but it made me think of, like this WandaVision show. Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
do. I never watched it either, but I know it. I do know it's that like retro kind of vibes.
All I know is that it's like black and white, but comes to color every now and then. But I do know that when I was listening to this song, that's literally the only images I could get in my head were things of black and white coming to color. And I
Mm,
couldn't explain it. And that's why
love
I'm
that.
like, I want more. So
Oh, do you know Pleasantville?
I do. Yeah.
That's one of my all-time favorite movies. I love Pleasantville.
Yes.
To have a black and white to color moment is that's cool. I love that entire movie, but especially that moment just is such a punch. Love it.
I forgot all about that movie until just now. My siblings are going to die over that right now.
It's so good.
Yes, I love it. In honor of sour cherry dandelion, you described as smoking disgusting cigarettes on a beach, summertime, friends, and falling in love. I'm going to give you a type of cigarette, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind for a song. Are you
Oh my
ready?
God, I am ready. Love this. Okay.
I only got three of them, so don't get too nervous.
Okay. Okay.
The first one I have is Marlboro Reds.
Cowboy Killers. Those are the hard ones. Yeah. When we started Fun, Nate smoked those in our rental van. We had a rented van and he was just like, fuck it, I'll pay the, $200 cleaning fee, whatever, I got it. And so, yeah, I've always been a fairly staunch anti-smoker, but I grew to really love I think I got like secondhand addicted, like Nate, hey, it's about time you have a cigarette, isn't it, buddy? Like, yeah, I dig them, I gotta say, but that's the hard stuff for sure.
Well, we're definitely not promoting smoking on this episode to anyone listening.
No, 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 no.
This is all for fun and games.
No, but you might just start smoking and be at the dawn of like a multi-platinum Grammy winning career. So I can't say that the cigarettes helped or hurt that part of the band, but I don't know.
Absolutely. The next one I have is American Spirits.
That is when I do have the occasional cigarette, that is the go-to. Natural, clean. Wait, am I answering this correctly? What am I supposed to say?
I'm low-key dying because it went from talking to music to like our habits because I was literally just about to tell you those are literally the cigarettes my partner smokes and they are pretty good when I have them every now and then when I have a drink.
They're kind of great, yeah. And then so my one of my best friends here that's in Metal Bubble Trio, he hand rolls cigarettes with like loose tobacco. He doesn't buy the packs, but he rolls them, and he can roll them so fast. He can do it while he's driving, and they're perfect. So usually before Metal Bubble Trio practices, we'll have some cigarettes, and in part just because it's fun to watch Phil roll. Because I'm just like, man, how do you? I can't do it. I use like if I roll. I don't know if we're talking drugs here or not. I don't even know if weed is a drug. Oh, here's the dog.
Hey,
There's Car.
Carly.
Hey, buddy.
What a good girl.
On the rare occasion that I do roll a joint, I use a rolling machine because I'm so you'd think that being a musician, my fingers are agile, but they're not for this kind of detail work anyway. Use a rolling machine. Long-winded way of saying American spirits are cool. It's even cooler to roll your own. It's even cooler to have Phil roll your own because he's a master.
Perfect. So I think that's what the answer will be. American spirits would inspire a song about the technique and fun vibes about rolling your own shit.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well said. Yes.
Amazing. The last one I have for you, what would a song be about? Camel Crush.
Oh, it's funny because you picked three that like have deep personal ties to three of my best friends. My buddy Mike, he smokes those. And so on the rare occasion, this is a very rare one for me, like maybe once a year, if that. But he smokes them pretty much all, whenever we hang out. Although I will say, New Year resolution, he has stopped smoking. So far he's holding strong to that. Love the crush though. Love smelling it, being around it, and then when I occasionally do get to crush one myself, like very fun. Love that. Love a like a little gimmick or a toy or a prize or something. Like it feels like a treat.
Okay, so this is definitely what I was talking about earlier about just being intuitive with questions because it's funny that that has a connection to you with someone in regards to those cigarettes because I'm not a day-to-day smoker myself. I'm actually not a smoker at all unless I'm super drunk and having one socially. But I will say that that's definitely where I drew that inspiration. I'm like, American spirits. My partner smokes and my parents, my sister, Camel Crush, one of my best friend Chelsea's. That's what she likes. And
Okay,
Marlboro
sure.
Reds made me think of my uncle who used to smoke this when I was younger. So it's funny how sometimes when you do tap into, just going with your instinct and your gut, you can really connect with people. And that's what I mean about having good intention with everything you do. So
That is very well put. Yeah, I feel like that's true about yeah, if you're being honest and you're coming from a place of purity and not trying to like guess or put on an act or whatever, like it's gonna find its way, you know?
no, for sure. Well, thanks so much for doing that with me. I thought that
Yeah,
would be
that's
a
fun.
lot of fun to do that
Great.
with you. One of the last things we'll do before we wrap things up and talk about where people can find your music and all the good stuff is in honor of the flags that you've created that I've seen pictures of on Instagram. In your opinion, what do your flags and your new music have in common?
Wow. What a lovely, well-researched question. Uh, I think okay, I think the flags and the music have in common the fact that I didn't know why I was doing it. And I think generally that becomes some of my favorite work that I make is I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I know that I want to keep doing it. And with the flags, sewing, having ideas, sketching them out, making them as gifts for people, sold a couple during the like heavily quarantined days and like donated, like tried to make it into like a goodwill gesture. I just kind of like wanted to do it and yeah, couldn't put my finger on why or what it was. And that was how these songs off of Cucumber started generally is like I'm curious about this and I don't really want to stop and I have more ideas and I look forward to getting into it. Sometimes with something maybe it's editing a podcast, maybe it's whatever it is and you're just like, man, I just don't want to do it today. That is a bad feeling. I don't like that feeling. And that is a lot of life. It's like, man, I gotta floss. I don't want to. It's boring. It takes a minute. I don't know. I gotta vacuum the floor. Whatever it is you have to do, like generally sucks and is effort. And for the flags and for Cucumber, it felt less like effort and more like play and more like chasing curiosity and more like connecting with my friends who I knew could help me with it. And like yes, I can't wait to go down to Toledo to mix and reproduce and tear it apart and rebuild it with Ben who ended up, co-producing and mixing. Like it was fun. It was really fun to hang with Ben and do that. When you feel that when you're making anything, even dinner, like if you're like, this is going to be good, this is going to be delicious. That is the track I'm always in pursuit of is like, this feels like I'm a kid again. It doesn't feel hard, even though it technically is hard and it is effort. It doesn't feel that way. That is the through line for me, I guess, like spiritually with those projects.
That is so beautiful. It's like tapping into those urges that you cannot stay away from and making beautiful art from it. I love that.
Yeah, and it's a little misleading because like it is, I want to emphasize that it is still everything is work. It's hard. It takes time. It's a grind. You might be like nudging, bass drum tuning by like one, cent until it's there. It's like it is microscopic granular work. And it's a lot of carrying things. I've moved like my pianos and amps and studio stuff. Like like Phil and I were actually just joking around yesterday that we've rearranged my studio like 5 times in the last this year already. Like we've lugged our heavy shit and moved it out and moved it back in, and we're gonna get a piano down there. It's like physically and intellectually and artistically and emotionally demanding work. But if you can find something where that feels a little bit less of a burden and more of a just a barrier of entry, that you're just like, well, I got to do it because I want a piano, so I got to get one. And there's one free on Facebook Marketplace right down the road. So Phil, get the truck. Finding those ways where it feels a little lighter, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
I love that so much. And I think that's just definitely something I hope some listeners can take and carry with them, especially into their creative journeys, because I think that's really good advice without it intentionally even being advice. But I think that there's power in what you just said. And I love that a lot.
I hope. I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I never know. I never know what I'm doing. I'm a complete beginner in all ways.
And yet magic is made whenever you're involved in it, in my opinion. So I love that. If Andrew could give this episode, now that we've had a good lengthy conversation, a design to a flag, what couple images come to mind that you would put on there? And that's how we're going to wrap up the episode.
Well, it would clearly include at least 3 cigarettes. Like, it would maybe be 3 cigarettes, almost like a British flag, like cigarettes crossed, and then maybe one kind of like perspective down the middle, and like the smoke would form up into. You have to help me with what the smoke is forming.
A mouth.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. All right, there we go. And I think also there would be like one little weird orb. Like the orb has been making, like, it's on the album cover. It's been like very present in my life lately. So just like a little orb in the corner.
I love it so much. Well, hopefully if that flag ever does, come to fruition, I'll be more than happy to take it from your hands.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Amazing. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for more importantly giving me your time today. I know time is the most valuable thing we have, and I appreciate you sitting down with me and talking about everything we've talked about. Lastly, can you please tell everyone where they can find you, where they can stream your music, and all the good details?
Yeah, on Instagram at Metal Bubble Trio. MetalBubbleTrio.com has, the album for sale and merch. And yeah, just wherever you stream music, Metal Bubble Trio. Trying to be active with the Instagram. That's always a good place to start. So I'm trying to be like, here's me, here's my dog, here's the band, those are the spots.
And not
But
just a dog, it's Carly.
It's Carly. It's the best dog in the world. Yeah, that's you, buddy. She just looked up. But yeah, thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for like the very insightful questions. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, and we'll definitely be in touch, all right?
Sounds good. Thank you.
You got it. Take care.
See ya.
Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.